The G20 Development Working Group meetings marked a pivotal moment under South Africa's G20 presidency, focused on solidarity, equality and sustainable development. The discussions focused on mobilizing finance for development, building resilience through social protection and enhancing access to global public goods. For more on this, we're now joined by Josephilda Nhlapo-Hlope, who's the chair of the DWG Outcomes Facilitator within the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in the Presidency. Josephilda, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. Let's start off here. I mean, you held the first G20 Health Working Group meeting today. Perhaps let's talk more about that. And, how did that go? I mean, this is the first one as we build up to the G20 summit later this year.
It went very, very well in the sense that we also had prepared very much for it to ensure that, as you all know, first impressions count. In spite of the fact that it was a virtual meeting, we were pleasantly surprised. Everything just seemed to work. And over and above that, the priorities of the Development Working Group, which you eloquently talked to, were well received by the 20+1 members of the G20, as well as the guest countries and the international organizations that assist in ensuring that when we come up with these ministerial declarations, they are taken forward and they are implemented. So it really went very well.
And as a country hosts, the G20 summit, and a country like ours has taken over the presidency of the G20, what is the aim of such meetings? Just to get an understanding of, the processes that will follow throughout the year.
Okay, so this very first meeting, we were socializing the priorities because, as you know, each presidency chooses its own priority. We chose these three: global public goods, financing for development, in particular looking at illicit financial flows, as well as a social protection flows. The reason why we went for those is to make sure that it is real, that we leave no one behind. Because if you've got a social protection flow, it means every single human being here in the world lives above that and is able to attain his or her or their potential. So that is what we drove, and we were seriously pleasantly surprised that in spite of the fact that, for example, as it relates to global public goods, there is need for further socialization and further understanding, because in some of these, there are no global definitions. So there is need that we work together with all these members of the G20 to come up with solutions to enable this priorities to be realized. Now, what is important for us is that we have seen that the G20 is not just a talk shop. I'll make a quick example of things that came out of the G20. The first example that comes into mind were the G20 principle to scale up blended finance in developing countries, with the Indonesian presidency initiating the Global Blended Finance Alliance to align global partners and support the incubation of innovative financing. So there it is, concrete examples of what the G20 can achieve. Another one is the BEPS, which is base erosion and profit shifting. That's the overarching name of this BEPS. It was established, and with it, countries were able to unlock billions in order to drive a development. But over and above that, for us as South Africa, it means It means setting up over 100 meetings, and in each of these meetings, over 100 delegates show up. And you can imagine we will have an opportunity to showcase our country. The Development Working Group, for example, is going in April. We are going to Cape Town. So we will be able not only to continue talking about this and coming up with more concrete outcomes that are implementable, that are practical. After that, we will go to Durban. And then the last one, which will include ministers, will be inside the Kruger National Park.
All right.
And I jokingly say to my colleagues as we continue debating, finalizing these things, that if they don't come up with an actionable, we co-develop an actionable a practical thing that the ministers can sign, I'll feed them to the lions.
Yeah. And Josephilda, I mean, earlier on, you also spoke about, leaving no one behind, and talking about first, the G20 Health Working Group meeting that also took place, the one that took place virtually, also talking about building resilient health systems and promoting equitable access to health services. Maybe let's touch a bit on that and, South Africa's positioning following the signing of the NHI and how that transcends and relates to what South Africa is facing.
Unfortunately, because we were hosting ours, I was not able to attend the health one and see the debate and how that went. Yeah. However, as the president gave the green light and showed the way, we say in Zulu, he said it very clear last year already at the UNGA that we all will use this opportunity to advocate for the peoples of Africa and for the people of the global south. So that is what we are driving as all these individual working groups.
All right, Josephilda, thank you so much for your time and for that explanation. That is Josephilda Nhlapo-Hlope, chairperson of the Development Working Group and for the Outcomes Facilitator from the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation within the Presidency. Also talking about that we should expect a number of meetings that will be taking place. Of course, she's outlining 100 meetings that will be taking place before South Africa hosts the G20 summit later this year.